The snow was falling softly outside as I placed the last ornament on the Christmas tree. This would be my first Christmas without James, and the emptiness of our family mansion felt overwhelming. My husband of 15 years had passed away 3 months ago, leaving me with memories, a broken heart, and, though his family didn't know it yet, full ownership of everything he possessed. Emma. My mother-in-law Barbara's sharp voice cut through my reminiscing. Why are these new ornaments on the tree? Our family's antique decorations should be front and center. I turned to face her, forcing a polite smile. I thought we could mix in some of the ornaments James and I collected over the years. He always loved. James isn't here anymore, she interrupted coldly. It's time things returned to the way they should be. Barbara had moved in 2 weeks after the funeral, claiming she needed to help me manage the house. My sister-in-law Christine followed a week later with her husband Tom, both suddenly very concerned about family property. What they didn't know was that James had seen this coming. They'll try to push you out, he'd warned me during his final days. They never thought you were good enough for me. Never accepted that I chose love over their society matches. Promise me you'll be ready. I had promised, though I'd thought he was just being paranoid. Now, watching Barbara rearrange the Christmas tree to her liking, I understood his concerns all too well. The doorbell rang. Probably the caterers for tomorrow's Christmas Eve dinner. Instead, I found myself face to face with Victoria, James's ex-fiancée from 20 years ago. My stomach dropped. Victoria. Barbara rushed forward, embracing her. I'm so glad you could make it. I stood frozen in the doorway. Make it for what? Christine appeared behind her, smirking. For Christmas Eve dinner, of course. Mother thought it would be nice to have a proper family gathering. Family. The word stung. After 15 years of marriage, they still considered James's ex more family than me. Throughout the evening, I watched as they fawned over Victoria. She'd married well, they reminded me repeatedly. She was on the board of multiple charities, understood tradition, understood their world in ways I never could. Remember when James was going to propose at the country club? Barbara sighed wistfully. Everything was planned so perfectly before things changed. Before he met me, she meant. Before the son of old money fell for a scholarship student who valued love over social status. I excused myself to the kitchen, needing a moment alone. As I leaned against the counter, their voices drifted in from the dining room. Poor James, Victoria's practiced sympathy carried clearly. Trapped in a marriage beneath his station. At least he's at peace now. The house feels wrong with her here, Christine added. All these common decorations, these middle-class touches. Mother, we have to do something. Already planned, dear, Barbara replied softly. The lawyers assure me that without a clear will, the property reverts to the family. We'll have her out by New Year's. I smiled to myself. James had known exactly what they would do. Make them think they've won, he'd advised. Let them show their true colors. Then when the time is right. Christmas Eve. The next morning dawned bright and cold. Barbara spent the day directing staff for the evening's party, while Christine and Victoria pored over old photo albums, loudly reminiscing about James's life before me. By sunset, the mansion was full of guests. Every smile, every whisper reminded me that in their eyes I didn't belong. Barbara clinked her glass for attention. Friends, family, she began, her voice echoing through the grand hall. This past year has been difficult for us all. Losing James has left a void that can never be filled. But tonight we begin to heal, to restore things to their proper order. My heart pounded. This was it. Emma, she said, turning to me, her smile sharp as a knife. You've been accommodating these past months, but now it's time for honesty. This house, this legacy belongs to the Carter family. Surely you understand you can't stay here. The room fell silent. Dozens of eyes turned toward me, some pitying, most triumphant. Christine stepped forward, holding out an envelope. We've arranged for a modest apartment in town. Given your background, it should be more than adequate. I took the envelope without opening it. You want me to leave tonight? Barbara nodded briskly. We've already had your things packed. Sure enough, several suitcases sat neatly by the door. They'd planned this humiliation perfectly, throwing me out on Christmas Eve, in front of everyone who'd ever doubted my place in James's life. It's snowing outside, I said quietly. James loved this house. This is our home. Christine's composure cracked. You never belonged here anyway. Victoria placed a comforting hand on Barbara's shoulder. It's for the best, really. James would have wanted the house restored to its proper family. I looked around. The Christmas tree James and I had decorated together every year, the photographs they'd already begun to remove, the life we'd built together. Very well, I said calmly, picking up my coat. I'll go. Finally, she shows sense, Barbara announced proudly. Don't worry about the legal details, dear. Our lawyers will be in touch after the holidays. I paused at the door, turned back and smiled faintly. Merry Christmas, I said softly. I'll see you all very soon. Their laughter followed me out into the falling snow. What they didn't know, what James had so carefully arranged before his death, was about to change everything. The plan. As I drove through the snowy streets to the five-star hotel where I'd already reserved the presidential suite, I made 2 calls. The first was to Marcus Chin, James's personal lawyer for over a decade. They did it, I told him. Exactly as James predicted, on Christmas Eve. Marcus sounded disgusted. Perfect timing, actually. Office opens the 26th. The video cameras caught everything, every word. Every word, I confirmed. James's security system installed last year had worked perfectly. The second call was to Detective Sarah Martinez. You got the evidence? She asked. Everything, I replied. Barbara's embezzlement from the family foundation, Christine's insurance fraud. It's all there. James's records were very thorough. We'll move on the 26th, she promised. Merry Christmas, Emma. I ended the call as I pulled into the hotel's heated garage. A valet hurried to help with my real bags. The ones packed with everything that truly mattered, not the decoy suitcases they'd so thoughtfully prepared. In my suite, I opened my laptop and reviewed the final pieces of James's plan. He'd spent his last months documenting every illegal transaction, every scheme his family had used to preserve their prestige. They'll think they've won, he told me. That's when they'll be most vulnerable, when they celebrate their victory. I smiled at the memory. Even as his health failed, James had prepared for this. What his family didn't know was that James had quietly transferred everything to my name months before his death. The house, the businesses, the foundation. All legally mine. All properly witnessed. And he'd left something else behind. Proof. Proof of every crime his family had committed to maintain their image. My phone buzzed with messages from their party. Finally got rid of the gold digger. The house can be restored to its former glory. James would be so happy to see things put right. I took screenshots of each one, adding them to the evidence file. Let them celebrate. In 1 week their world would come crashing down. As snow continued to fall outside my luxury suite, I poured a glass of James's favorite whiskey, lifted it to the light and whispered, Merry Christmas, my love. Justice is coming. Merry Christmas, my love, I whispered. The show is about to begin. The week between Christmas and New Year's passed in a blur of careful preparation. While Barbara and her cohorts celebrated their supposed victory at my expense, I worked with Marcus to set everything in motion. On December 26th, just as planned, 2 things happened simultaneously. First, Marcus filed the official documentation of my ownership, complete with video evidence of their Christmas Eve performance. Second, Detective Martinez moved on the financial crimes evidence, freezing the foundation's accounts just as Barbara attempted to transfer a large year-end bonus to herself. My phone rang early on December 30th. It was Christine, her voice missing its usual condescension. There must be some mistake, she began without preamble. The foundation's accounts are frozen. Mother can't access anything. No mistake, I replied calmly. Just karma. What did you do? She hissed. Me? Nothing. Your mother's creative accounting finally caught up with her. Oh, and Christine? Those insurance claims you filed last year. Investigators are very interested in those too. She hung up. Minutes later Barbara called. You spiteful little witch, she spat. How dare you cause trouble with the foundation? Do you know who we are? I know exactly who you are, I answered coolly. James knew too. Why do you think he spent his last months documenting everything? Silence. Then she demanded, what do you want? Want? Nothing. I already have everything. The house, the foundation, the business interests. James transferred them all to me months ago. Legally. Properly. Irrevocably. I could hear her struggling to breathe. You're lying. Check with your lawyers, I said. Though I should warn you they might be busy today. Fraud investigations take up so much time. The next morning I walked into the mansion, my mansion, with Marcus and a security team. Barbara, Christine and Tom were waiting, their lawyer beside them. This is our family home, Barbara snapped, arms crossed. You have no right. Marcus stepped forward, documents in hand. Mrs. Carter has every right. Full ownership was transferred to her by your son on June 15th, with multiple witnesses present. James would never, Christine began. Actually, I interrupted, it was his idea. He knew exactly what you'd do after he was gone. The only surprise was how quickly you showed your true colors. Their lawyer reviewed the papers, his face growing paler with every page. These are completely in order, he murmured. Mrs. Carter owns everything. Not everything. Barbara snapped. Actually, said Detective Martinez as she entered with several officers, everything. She held up a warrant. Barbara Carter, you're under arrest for embezzlement and fraud. And Christine Carter for insurance fraud. This is ridiculous. Barbara shrieked, looking around wildly. Victoria. Call Vincent. She won't be coming, I said. She's a bit busy, with her own legal troubles. Something about tax evasion. As the officers led Barbara away, Christine turned to me, tears streaking her face. Please, she begged. You can't do this. We'll be ruined. Like you tried to ruin me? I asked quietly. Throwing me out in the snow on Christmas Eve? Packing my bags with old clothes while I wasn't looking? We were grieving. Tom protested. No, I corrected him. You were gloating. There's a difference. The security cameras had caught everything. Every cruel word, every smug smirk. Over the next few hours I watched as they packed their real belongings. Under supervision, of course. The once proud Carter family, reduced to loading designer luggage into hired cars. At the door, Barbara turned back one last time. He was my son, she said brokenly. Yes, I replied softly. And he spent his final months making sure you couldn't hurt me the way you hurt him, when he chose love over social status. After they left, I walked through the house, my house, remembering James's words during those final planning sessions. They never forgave me for choosing you, he'd said. Let them think they've won it first. Then show them exactly why I fell in love with you, your strength, your intelligence, your grace. He had known exactly what he was doing. The following months brought waves of change. Barbara and Christine faced criminal charges. The society pages buzzed with scandal. Former friends scrambled to distance themselves. But something unexpected happened too. The foundation, under my leadership, actually began helping people. Instead of funding vanity projects, it funded real change. The businesses thrived without the burden of Barbara's extravagance. 1 year later, I hosted a very different Christmas party. The mansion was filled with warmth and laughter. Foundation staff, beneficiaries, and true friends. The Christmas tree sparkled with both antique and new ornaments, each one representing a memory, a loss, or a hope. James would have loved it. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Barbara and Christine had taken plea deals. No jail time but heavy fines and community service. Their so-called friends had turned their backs. Later that evening, as the party wound down, I found myself in James's study. His photograph smiled down at me from above the fireplace. You were right, I told him softly. About everything. The next morning I received an unexpected letter. It was from Victoria. I was wrong about you, she wrote. James chose better than any of us knew. The Foundation's new programs are making a real difference. If you're willing, I'd like to help. I thought for a long time before replying. The adult literacy program needs volunteers on Tuesday evenings, I wrote back. Don't be late. 2 years after being thrown out into the snow, I stood once again in the grand hall, watching another Christmas tree being decorated. But this time the ornaments told a different story, of redemption, justice, and turning pain into purpose. Barbara and Christine had moved to a small town in another state. Their society connections and prestigious name were worthless now. Tom had divorced Christine. And Victoria, surprisingly, had become one of the Foundation's most dedicated volunteers. The mansion they tried to take from me had become a place of real charity and genuine warmth. The fortune they abused was now serving the community. The name they had once used for power now stood for compassion. My phone buzzed again, a message from Marcus. The last appeal was denied. It's really over. I smiled, touching the wedding ring I still wore. They never understood, did they, James? I whispered. You didn't just leave me your possessions, you left me your strength, your integrity, and the power to make things right. The snow was falling outside just like that night 2 years ago. But this time, instead of being cast out into the cold, I was exactly where I belonged, carrying on James's true legacy, not the superficial one his family had clung to. They thought throwing me out was their victory. Instead, it became their downfall and my greatest triumph. As I watched the snow fall beyond the window, I remembered something James had once told me. The best revenge isn't just proving them wrong, love. It's using their cruelty as a stepping stone to create something better than they could ever imagine. Looking around at what our home had become, I smiled. We'd done exactly that. And somewhere I was sure, James was smiling too.